Oh, man.
I saw his jacket he took back from the stage.
Oh, the one with all the things.
That's
it.
Hey.
No kidding either. A satisfied customer, I wear them every day. Chesterfield.
Hold on tight. We're about to uncover the smoky tales of rock and roll's biggest legends. Can you guess which rock star was rarely seen without a cigarette in hand? Keep watching to find out. 35. Dion Warwick. Dion Warwick is a confessed chain smoker. Her aging voice now suffers from her years of chronic smoking, but boy, back in the day, you would never have known she was puffing on cigs while recording that silky, shimmery voice. Singer Dion Warwick, 83, starts her day with coffee and a cigarette and says she's a doctor's nightmare. The star still smoked, emphasizing that she was on the way to quitting, but still hadn't managed to cut out the habit altogether. 34. Charlie Watts. Despite quitting smoking in the late 1980s, Watts was diagnosed with throat cancer in June 2004. He underwent a course of radiotherapy and the cancer went into remission. I went into the hospital, Watts recalled, and 8 months later Mick said, "We're going to do a record, but we'll only do it when you're ready." They were buggering about, writing songs, and when I was ready, I went down, and that was it. A bigger bang. Then I did a 2-year tour. It seems that whenever we stop, I get ill, so maybe I should carry on. Watts died at a London hospital on August 24th, 2021 at age 80 with his family around him. Although the cause of death was never officially stated, Keith Richards mentioned in March 2022 that Watts had had cancer. 33. Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis, the brash slapstick comic who became a pop culture sensation in his partnership with Dean Martin and then transformed himself into an auteur filmmaker of such comedic classics as The Nutty Professor and The Bellboy, has died in Las Vegas. He was 91. Television's most venerable telethon host entered living legend territory long ago, and his comedy dominance, particularly in his partnership with Dean Martin throughout the 40s and 50s, paved the way for absurdist jokemeisters such as Andy Kaufman, Jim Carrey, and Jack Black. But along the way, he also has suffered a litany of health problems, many related to his extreme lifestyle. Besides prostate cancer, diabetes, and open-heart surgery, there's the nasty case of viral meningitis Lewis got performing in Australia, pulmonary fibrosis thanks to his long-time 5-pack-a-day smoking habit. Lewis ballooned up to 280 pounds for several years consequent to a medicine he took for the condition, chronic back pain from chipping his spine during a pratfall at the Sands Casino, as well as accompanying bouts of addiction to prescription painkillers and even suicidal depression. 32. Bing Crosby. Few men have enjoyed a successful and long-lasting career like Bing Crosby. This soulful singer was a household name for more than 50 years. His smooth vocal style and magnetic screen presence turned him into a star virtually overnight. He was rarely seen without one of his signature pipes in hand. Whether he was writing a song or filming on set, this legendary crooner always took the time to enjoy some delicious tobacco. These days, it's rare to see a man smoking a pipe out in public. However, during the old days of Hollywood, some of the most lauded leading men were rarely seen without a pipe in hand. Below, you'll discover the 5 most beloved pipe smokers from Hollywood's golden age. 31. Dean Martin. Dean Martin made a stellar career as an amiable drunk. During the 1950s and 1960s, he seldom appeared on stage or on television without a glass of scotch in his hand. With a glassy stare and slurring his speech, he jokingly missed his cues and forgot lyrics of his songs. The Drunkie Act was just that, an act. But the great entertainer did enjoy a drink, and one brand is forever associated with his name, J&B Rare. As part of his image as a carefree drunk, Martin had been habitually seen performing with a lit cigarette in hand, and he was indeed a heavy smoker. Martin learned he had lung cancer in 1993. He died of complications from emphysema 2 years later. 30. Adele. Adele Laurie Blue Adkins is a singer and songwriter from England who has received various prestigious awards. Who would have thought that pop, soul, R&B singers have ever been heavy smokers? The singer once smoked 25 cigarettes a day and was afraid that the habit would kill her. In 2011, the singer of Rolling in the Deep was forced to take a hiatus from the world of music and underwent vocal cord surgery because of her laryngitis. It is very risky for the sound and can cause the sound to be permanently damaged. 29. David Bowie. In his younger years, David Bowie was often seen smoking. Bowie admitted in an interview he gave about smoking in 1997 that it was a rite of passage when he was young, and he admitted that he would sing better if he didn't smoke. Bowie also said that he used cigarettes like a prop on stage in the past, lighting them with a match for dramatic effect. At the time of the interview, he admitted that cigarettes were now simply an addiction. He would no longer even think to use them as props. In this song's infamous opening lines, "Time takes a cigarette, puts it in your mouth," Bowie was saying that life is a cigarette. Smoke it in a hurry or savor it. 28. Sammy Davis Jr. He was called the world's greatest entertainer. Sammy Davis Jr. lived life to the fullest, and though small in stature, he did everything big. His physical being was the total opposite of his lifestyle, small in size but big in accomplishments. In August 1989, Davis began to develop symptoms of cancer, a tickle in his throat, and an inability to taste food. Doctors found a malignant tumor in Davis's throat. He was a heavy smoker and had often smoked up to 4 packs of cigarettes a day as an adult. When told that surgery, laryngectomy, offered him the best chance of survival, Davis replied he would rather keep his voice than have a part of his throat removed. He was treated with definitive radiation therapy. His larynx was later removed when his cancer recurred. He was released from the hospital on March 13, 1990. Davis died of complications from throat cancer 2 months later at his home in Beverly Hills, California on May 16, 1990 at age 64. 27. Pete Doherty. Peter Doherty, born March 12, 1979, is an English musician, songwriter, actor, poet, writer, and artist. He is best known for being co-frontman of the Libertines, which he formed with Carl Barat in 1997. His other musical projects are indie band Baby Shambles and Peter Doherty and the Puta Madres. Smoking cigarettes is just one of Pete Doherty's addictions. In 2013, he said, "I'll need to cut my hand off to quit crack and heroin." Doherty has been repeatedly arrested for drug offenses and offenses arising from drug use such as drunk driving, car theft, and driving with a suspended license. He has pleaded guilty to possession of crack cocaine, heroin, cannabis, and ketamine. His addictions have resulted in jail time and rehabilitation facilities. Drugs had been so important at some points in his life that in his younger days, Doherty worked as a drug dealer to pay for his drug habit, as he admitted to author Peter Welsh in his biography. Doherty stated that he had been a rent boy, and that during that time he robbed one of his male clients. 26. Steven Tyler. Tyler first began experimenting with drugs in the mid-1960s, smoking marijuana as a teenager, he told GQ in 2019. Though he maintained control over his life as Aerosmith broke through in the 1970s, things took a turn by the end of the decade. And without the proper avenues to seek help, Tyler's substance abuse problems worsened. The rocker didn't discriminate when it came to drugs, telling people in 1988 that he took heroin, coke, Valium, anything that anyone came near with. Tyler made several attempts to seek help in the 80s, telling Haute Living he went away in 1984 and 1986, but didn't really get it. It wasn't until his bandmates intervened in 1988 that his treatment stuck. Tyler elaborated on the intervention to GQ, saying he was essentially given an ultimatum, but initially feared his bandmates were trying to brainwash him and strip him of his creativity. In finding sobriety, Tyler said that he emerged from a fog he hadn't even known he'd been in. Steven Tyler from Aerosmith said, "I used to do heroin and smoke cigarettes, and there isn't a day that I don't miss the cigarettes." 25. Tony Bennett. Legendary singer Tony Bennett has died at age 96, just a few weeks shy of his 97th birthday. Bennett had been public about his health struggles before his death, with his family sharing in 2021 that he had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's a few years prior. Bennett wrote in his 1998 memoir, The Good Life, that he became swept away by drugs in the 70s when he and his family moved to Hollywood. He also smoked cigarettes. He later wrote that his friend and fellow musician Bill Evans' fatal overdose made me think hard about my own drug use. I knew that somehow, something had to be done. 24. Neil Young. Canadian-born rocker Neil Young says he feels fine after giving up smoking and drinking at age 66. "I did it for 40 years, the singer told the New York Times. Now I want to see what it's like to not do it. It's just a different perspective." Young said he got some pretty sincere advice from his doctor and set aside the 2 long-running vices. "I think I'm still high from the last 50 years, but I certainly don't miss it at this point," Young joked in an interview with Parade magazine. 23. William Gallagher. William Gallagher, or as he is often known as Liam Gallagher, is a British singer and songwriter known for his love of the rock and roll lifestyle. The singer, who has the debut album hit As You Were in 2010, often drinks, smokes, and uses illegal drugs, which he is now trying to reduce. He added, as if by way of an excuse, that he always got very edgy before going on stage and that there were different ways of releasing that surplus adrenaline. 22. Chris Brown. R&B hip-hop singer, songwriter, and actor from America is known to love smoking. The American singer-songwriter even released a song earlier called Let's Smoke. The singer experienced the consequences of smoking firsthand back in 2016 when his ex-girlfriend accused him of causing their daughter's asthma by exposing her to secondhand smoke. As we know, smoking brings various side effects that are harmful to health. Even passive smokers have a more severe risk of side effects than active smokers. 21. Noel Gallagher. Oasis musician Noel Gallagher is a big-time smoker. In 2013, he said, "I saw the drummer from Muse smoking an electronic cigarette, a cigarette with a battery in it. I had to say to him, 'Really? Really? Is that where you're at? Do me a favor, mate. Either have a proper one outside or don't have one.' It lit up green when he had a drag of it. Nonsense." 20. George Harrison. George Harrison, the Beatles' lead guitarist, was known to have smoked cigarettes and marijuana during his lifetime. Harrison went through 4 packs a day and only stopped when he was diagnosed with smoking-related cancers. He battled the disease for decades before dying in 2001. In the 1960s and 1970s, it was quite common for many musicians, including the Beatles, to experiment with drugs like marijuana. Harrison was introduced to marijuana by Bob Dylan in 1964, and he continued to use it throughout his life. However, the exact amount he smoked is not well documented, and it's difficult to provide a precise answer to the question. It's important to note that drug use can have negative health effects and may not be suitable for everyone. The 58-year-old Harrison was no stranger to cancer treatment. In 1997, he discovered a lump on his neck that turned out to be cancerous. A malignant node from an oral cancer was treated with surgery and radiation. Of that incident, he said, "I got it purely from smoking. I gave up cigarettes many years ago, but had started again for a while and then stopped in 1997. Luckily for me, they found that this nodule was more of a warning than anything else. It reminds you that anything can happen," he said at the time. He was correct when he said that years of heavy smoking likely precipitated his cancer. The links to this type of oropharyngeal cancer and heavy tobacco use have been well documented. The following year, Harrison survived an attack by an intruder who stabbed him several times. A man who sought privacy in his life, Harrison attempted to keep some of it to himself when a world of fans grew concerned about his ongoing encounters with cancer. George Harrison, the Beatles' quiet lead guitarist and spiritual explorer, who added both rock and roll flash and a touch of the mystic to the band's timeless magic, died on November 29, 2001. He was 58 years old. 19. Janice Joplin. Janice Joplin came out of Texas a self-styled beatnik loyal to folk music and the blues. By the time she came out of San Francisco, she was an international phenomenon, yet hid her loneliness behind a crass exterior as one of the boys. Very few knew the sensitive soul existing simultaneously with the outrageous larger-than-life rock star. The iconic blues rock singer was known for her powerful voice and her love for smoking. Janice Joplin started smoking at 14, resorted to prostitution to have some chump change in her pocket in order to travel. She shoplifted, sold meth, hustled pool, popped pills, and even stayed drunk and homeless on the mean streets of New York City. She took on lovers of both sexes and was a full-blown speed freak at 22, injecting herself multiple times a day. Then she discovered heroin. 18. Mick Jagger. As one of the many rockers in the 1960s, Mick Jagger had a relationship with drugs. However, Jagger's use of drugs ended when he started dating model Jerry Hall in the late 1970s. In her autobiography, she claimed that the singer quit drugs at her request. "I told him I couldn't see him if he took drugs, saying, 'Go away and don't come back until you're straight.'" According to Hall, Jagger was fond of smoking cigarettes with heroin. Since then, it seems the rocker has completely stopped drug usage, although he still drinks occasionally as shown on social media. 17. Amy Winehouse. The soul diva was reported to have been diagnosed with lung damage that could lead to the incurable disease emphysema. Though copious photos show the beehived songstress with a cigarette dangling from her lips, it seemed stunning to learn that someone that age could suffer from a disease usually associated with two-pack-a-day 65-year-olds. She was warned by doctors that unless she quits smoking, her singing will suffer and her lungs will be damaged beyond repair. And it seems to have had a terrible effect on her health, for at the tender age of 24, the troubled star has now been given a stark choice by doctors: switch to a healthier lifestyle or die young. Yet, according to some reports, she was seen puffing on a cigarette just hours after leaving the private hospital, the London Clinic, last week. Rehab singer Amy Winehouse has joined the 27 Club, suspected to have succumbed to her lifestyle, a cocktail of drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, and rehab which she had once refused to attend. All this left her frail and withered. 16. B.B. King. King was born Riley B. King in 1925 in a sharecropper's cabin in Indianola, Mississippi. Better known as the King of the Blues, B.B. King has made a huge impact on the music world. King's career is probably the longest-lasting career for a musician guitarist. His career lasted 70 years, spanning from the 1940s to the 2010s. In interviews, B.B. King had stated that he would play the guitar until he couldn't play anymore. He played and performed for thousands of lucky fans until he died in 2015 at the age of 89. Many artists then and now smoke and are convinced that smoking helped them unlock their minds. B.B. King was also photographed many times with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth while playing his guitar. 15. Cheryl Cole. Cheryl Ann Tweedy is a singer who is part of the British band Girls Aloud since she participated in the Pop Stars The Revivals competition. The star, who was born in Newcastle, England, is an on-off smoker. In 2012, before releasing the single Call My Name, Metro revealed that the singer was ordered by management to quit smoking before it took its toll on her vocals. Apart from that, several sources also revealed that the singer had tried to quit smoking before, but never took it seriously. Now Cheryl must completely quit smoking because her voice is her job. However, it is not certain whether the singer followed her manager's advice to quit smoking forever. In 2013, paparazzi The Sun published that this beautiful singer was caught smoking. 14. Ringo Star. Fans saw the Beatles smoking in every scene in A Hard Day's Night, and while director Richard Lester used the smoke in artful ways, it's likely that millions of baby boomers started smoking because the Beatles made it look cool. Like McCartney, Ringo was also a heavy smoker while with the Beatles and beyond, consuming several packs a day. The drummer was also a heavy drinker before embracing sobriety. But Ringo Starr has kicked a 3-pack-a-day habit. Ringo Starr allegedly quit in the 1980s during a stint in rehab. Now, he lives a healthy, exercise-heavy, pizza-free lifestyle. 13. Rihanna. Robin Rihanna Fenty, known for her hit song Umbrella, is a Barbadian singer, songwriter, actress, and entrepreneur. This R&B, pop, reggae singer doesn't hesitate to show her smoking habit in public. Rihanna often takes portraits of herself smoking, where friend smoke is the main motif and feature in her music videos. It is also the cover of her album, Talk That Talk, which was released in November 2011. 12. Paul McCartney. At the height of Beatlemania, a month after the U.S. Surgeon General's report on the dangers of smoking, one of the group's ubiquitous publicity shots, an image emblazoned on everything from loose-leaf notebooks to handkerchiefs, showed Paul holding a cigarette. But Paul quit smoking about 30 years ago. Paul McCartney's addiction didn't last, though, as a near-death experience in 1973 led him to quit smoking, at least for a while. Paul McCartney quit for good in the late 1980s after he collapsed in a recording studio due to a bronchial spasm that was triggered by smoking cigarettes, though paparazzi spotted him puffing away in Jamaica in 2022. 11. Bruno Mars. Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak, the duo otherwise known as Silk Sonic, won Record of the Year at the 2022 Grammys for their ballad Leave the Door Open. Taking to the stage, Mars was filmed lighting up a cigarette while Paak accepted the award. In the industry, we call that a clean sweep, Paak said. Silk Sonic won every award they were nominated for at this year's Grammys, with 4 gongs for Leave the Door Open. People on social media were quick to react to the singer smoking on stage, which is highly unusual at an award show. LMAO, Bruno Mars lit up a cigarette live on the Grammy stage after winning Record of the Year. I can't even deal, journalist Miranda J. wrote. Cigarettes are bad for you, but Bruno Mars, can I bum a smoke off you? Hamel Javeri wrote. Another begged the question, Bruno Mars just lit a cigarette on the Grammy stage in the middle of accepting an award. Can we talk about that instead of Will Smith now? The singer, with 1 million works and awards, is touted as a heavy smoker. According to Adele, the singer of When I Was Your Man, she collaborated with him when recording the song All I Ask, joked that Bruno Mars smoked like an old woman. 10. Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is an American singer, songwriter, and actress known for her unconventional and provocative style. The singer of the legendary hit song Poker Face in the pop genre is known to be smoking by her fans through her Netflix documentary Gaga, 5'2". Not only smoking tobacco cigarettes, but this Guinness World Records award-winning singer also smokes clove cigars. Kretek cigarettes, or commonly known as clove cigars, are thin cigarettes made with a mixture of tobacco, cloves, and other substances. They contain a numbing agent called eugenol and can be even more toxic than other types of cigarettes. The singer of the song Shallow is known to enjoy smoking cigarettes. According to the Huffington Post, the singer chose to smoke a glass of whiskey while at work because she thought it would free her mind a little. 9. Lou Reed. Lou Reed could get through half a pack of cigarettes during a single interview. More than once, he'd interject over the smoke that he was trying to quit. Friends had said that they had quit smoking 20 times with him. Reed supposedly was successful in giving up the habit a short time before his death. 8. Dave Mustaine. Throughout his life, Dave Mustaine has maintained the image of an angry, embittered, rebellious youth, and he seems to be as immortal as his thirst for revenge against his former bandmates in Metallica. After being a heavy smoker for many years, time came calling and left a reminder that bad habits spare nobody. In 2019, the Megadeth legend was diagnosed with throat cancer. As a result, he had to cancel all concerts for the remainder of the year. 7. Keith Richards. The Rolling Stones legend quit smoking as recently as 2019. He made the decision, among other reasons, to keep the Rolling Stones on the road for as long as possible. He confirmed that he hasn't had a cigarette since October of that year. However, kicking butts certainly wasn't easy. The rock star has echoed the sentiment made by many former smokers and doctors that quitting nicotine is harder than quitting heroin. He commented that quitting heroin is hell, but it's a short hell. Cigarettes and the monkey that asks for them are always there. If he isn't careful, he'll pick one up and light it without even thinking about it. But he told Mojo that he tackled the addiction by cutting down by a substantial amount every day. And despite his storied past with alcohol and drugs, Richards says his only remaining weaknesses are rock and roll and a glass of Pinot Grigio now and then. 6. Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan has been generous and open on his experience with addiction, including his rounds with cigarettes. He had an extensive radio spot where he discussed what happens when the tobacco plant collides with popular culture. In the program, he composed several songs that expressed frustration with what nicotine does to the body and mind. He touted the plausible but inaccurate theory about the human body developing extra receptors in the brain that starved when there was an interruption of the intake of nicotine. 5. Johnny Cash. In an era when singers smoked like chimneys and fans were perfectly okay with it, Johnny Cash picked up the habit of smoking cigarettes when he was only 12 years old. It was a heavy smoking habit that he carried with him most of his career. When he was 56, he emerged from double bypass surgery in critical but stable condition. Before he went under for the procedure, the country musician made up his mind that he was going to put the smokes down for good. He had already been through ditching other, stronger substances, so quitting smoking would be nothing unusual for him. 4. Jim Morrison. Virtually every photograph of Jim Morrison still in existence shows him with a cigarette of some sort. The exact number of cigarettes he smoked per day is hard to deduce, since he wasn't about bumming cigarettes from fans in the front row during concerts. Some say that he was partial to Marlboros. Others say he had a taste for the French cigarello brand called Gauloise. He was at least dedicated to burning through 2 packs a day by some counts. 3. Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix came from an era of music where smoking was as standard as the guitar. To put it succinctly, he smoked like a chimney. It was a part of making his voice grittier and raspier. Of course, he did it to unwind, often combining smoking and drinking when with friends. 2. Frank Sinatra. It's a wonder that Frank's voice held up the way it did. Frank Sinatra. The guy was never seen on stage without a glass of whiskey in his hand and a cigarette between his fingers. In some cases, he was singing and smoking at the same time. It was a habit that he ended up taking to his grave. He wasn't shy about promoting cigarettes like Chesterfields. Sinatra, a smoker of many years, never inhaled when smoking, afraid that it would damage his voice. The one thing that was reinforced as being eternally precious to him after his throat hemorrhage in the 50s. Frank felt a trickle at the corner of his mouth whilst performing one night. Thinking it was saliva, he wiped it away with his white handkerchief. It was blood. Later, it would be diagnosed as a submucosal hemorrhage. 1. John Lennon. John Lennon, like the rest of his bandmates, was a Marlboro man. At times, he could even be accused of being a chain smoker. In one of the interviews he did in the 70s, he smoked all the way through the show, lighting one cigarette off another. And despite her feminist stance, Yoko always let John light her cigarettes for her. John was a really heavy smoker until the day he was murdered. Shortly before that, he had switched to a heavy-duty French cigarillo brand called Gauloise. He had made an attempt to quit smoking in the 70s at the advice of his therapist, but he was unsuccessful. And there you have it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into rock and roll history, hit that like button and subscribe. Don't forget to check out our other videos for more rock legends and music stories. Keep rockin'!